TOOBASED. We have seen a lot of stolen Ravages throughout the Pro Series, and TOOBASED just go into Morphling. So you've got the Morphling Abaddon lane, lots of sustain coming out. Abaddon just healing up the Morphling when he's fully agi shifted. You get a lot of value from that heal in that lane, let me tell you.
Yes, you do, John. I love the value that our Rubik's getting, though. This looks like an amazing game for a Rubik. The dream game, in fact. So many things to steal. NoPing, do you want to give him a bit more to steal, I wonder? 4th pick now. 45 seconds reserve time left to make this decision, and you can assume it's just going to be the position 1. Mr. HFN.
They've got a lot of solid HFN here to the left. Gyrocopters in the pool. The Medusa's in the pool, although how much you want Medusa into Morphling is a different question. You've got the Luna as well, but again, into Morphling, it's a bit strange. Well, not strange, but just doesn't feel ideal necessarily with the lineup you have on hand. So I'm not sure if NoPing will want to go for those heavy farming heroes once more for HFN, but he plays them really well. You know, it's just those heroes he does well, and they go into the AM. This is another hyper carry farming hero that does really well against Morphling. Right? You jump in, you drain the Morphling of mana. You've got a shotgun to... you get shotgun, you can reflect it back if you're quick enough in the AM. And once you burn the Morphling's mana, he's just kind of dead in the water there. So it's a great way to punish a Morphling once you get enough farm. But you will have to watch that back and forth timing. There's a lot of really close timing here. It's like the Morphling has to farm up fast as well, but he wants to be a bit more active in terms of joining his team for kills. The AM, of course, is just going to be looking for split push for the most part. So a good back and forth already in terms of these drafts. That does leave our mid matchups last, and, well, a lot of ways you could go here for both sides.
Yeah, I suppose they could. I'm a bit concerned that they went into the AM, though, John. It's been a long time since we've seen the AM being picked up. Maybe it's a good counter towards the Morphling, but is it going to be strong enough in this game to be able to pull them through to game 2? I don't know. AM does seem kind of, lackluster, in my opinion.
Yeah, its timings are really sensitive, and the playstyle is something that's sort of been punished as well. So we'll see if HFN can make this work. I still think AM into Morphling is actually really good. We've seen that matchup work before in other regions. So when it just comes down to these heroes and their timings, AM has some pretty good timings against Morphling. So again, you burn his mana out, you jump in with illusions. Morphling doesn't necessarily clear out those illusions well until he hits some talent spikes later on. So you do have a lot to play with there for HFN. And this also sort of preemptively prevents you from going for something like a Storm, because you don't want to pick Storm into AM. So you kind of also get some soft ban value with the AM pickup here, at least in terms of figuring out that mid matchup. And you do see NoPing go into the Kunkka. So you've got Kunkka tied, you've got the X to maybe lock in that Morphling. You've got a lot of ways to sustain yourself in fights. You are fairly tanky in the front line as well once the boat is up. So it's a really good way of playing back and forth. Now, this still goes back to that Rubik first pick from TOOBASED. There are so many good spells to steal here. This is probably one of the best Rubik games to play. If you do play Rubik, this is probably the dream.
It's a very nice time. Simply TOOBASED final pickup now. Looking for either a mid hero or a safe lane carry, depending on where they want to put that Morphling. "30 seconds left to make the decision.
I don't think you want to run the mid Morphling here. You've got Abaddon, Morphling. You could still flex, but I think you really want the value from that lane, just because you can really hold out there, and the matchup against Tidehunter is pretty good for the Morphling. You're not going to be harassed out, so you're probably just going to have to look for a mid. Not going to be able to hold on to that flex.
All right, they go for an LC pickup. So now you've got double Dispel.
Probably, yeah. Double Dispel, a lot of ways of just getting out the Suns. It's actually pretty darn nice here from TOOBASED, just having that up. And they actually do go for the mid LC still. All right, so that's not something you see too often anymore, but mid LC does make its appearance once more. It's really nice against the Kunkka. Like, you talk about the back and forth you can get with Tidebringer. LC can kind of just heal herself up. When Tide brings down, she can run up and kind of right-click out the Kunkka. So you do actually have to be a bit careful there from Dark Mago. The Dispel's on hand, as you mentioned, is really good for I Annihilate. And once you get some duels off, you probably won't lose because you do have at least a shield and heal from the Abaddon as long as he's around. So you can get yourself some pretty nice duel wins early on if you want to play aggressive. This is a solid lineup from TOOBASED, but NoPing doesn't look bad as well. Kunkka plus Tide. You've got 4 heroes that can run around by space for the anti-mage, and we have seen HFN. He plays these off-meta cores, but he always plays them really well. So there's still some timings here that you have to watch out for that TOOBASED has to contest to prevent HFN from farming up.
I am really curious as to how this mid LC goes, John. I do like to play a bit of mid LC, you know, occasionally, just for a bit of fun. It can be very effective when you are up against just a solo core like a Kunkka that is melee as well, because you can just run up and just keep hitting them over and over again, and it's very hard to contest. But at the same time, it's still a mid LC. And I was talking about how out of meta the AM is, but now you've got an LC there, and it looks like I Annihilate, in all fairness, might not go mid, which is probably the way to go if that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, it's looking like the mid Monkeys Forever Sand King, which is honestly a lot better, I think. Again, going back to that point you made on the LC, it's been off meta from mid for a long time. Mid Sand King is something we've seen poke its head a couple of times, not often enough. But it does make its appearance. Your reliance on Epicenter is a lot easier to pull off because of its change and how it's channeled. So you have a lot more options there, and they're looking for aggressive plays here up top.
Oh, Matthew. They didn't Burrow Strike him, though. They don't have the greatest kind of lineup for a First Blood. I mean, now that Empyrean's also joined, they could definitely do it. But you've really only got the Burrow Strike to use to lock somebody down. So I doubt Flea wants to go for level 1 lift. Probably would if it will mean the First Blood, but it kind of ruins your laning stage if you did. Go ahead and pick that up. Looks like they're going to go the other way.
Excellent idea.
Well, Matthew might come in for the rune as well. This could be disastrous for Matthew. Does get hit once, but Monkeys did not stun. And yeah, they're just going to let him go. Looks like they're just not confident to kill anyone off. It's going to be a 2-for-2 trade on the bounty runes. Looks like Empyrean will just keep chasing Matthew for a bit, but it's going to lead to nothing, and Matthew, with his high passive regen, is going to be fine anyway.
Yeah, it's a hard hero to harass out. That does lead to very stable lanes here. It does look like they're actually doing some rotations, so they're dragging Dark Mago up top on the Kunkka to face off against the LT Rubik lane. With a Nyx, this is pretty potent. You've got a lot of chain stuns here on NoPing's end once you hit some levels. For TOOBASED, they only really have one, but they have a Dispel on hand to kind of break that combo off as well. So you're going to have to watch that back and forth. That does mean we are seeing a mid AM. HFN is up against Monkeys Forever. This is an interesting choice, wanting to have the AM up against the Sand King. And you're already seeing some of the harassment out in HFN, but he can also stand there and last it quite nicely. Monkeys did go for the level 1 Sandstorm. Once he has the Caustic, it could be pretty hard to find some last hits here if you're not careful on HFN.
Yeah, we'll see if Monkeys Forever intends to keep leveling the Caustic up. I wouldn't blame him if he did, because it allows you to farm very quick as well. And you can kind of play a bit more of a farm-heavy SK. Of course, down at the bot lane as well, we do have Oscar and Manuli there. Boris and Empyrean, of course, on the Morph and the Abaddon. It really goes to show how much happens when you have one new addition to the team. Just the amount of lane swaps that happen, the difference in game plans, as Manuli does manage to get the courier of Boris, so a very nice snipe there on the Mirana. And I'm still very curious to see how he does go here. For now, I've got to say he's doing a great job. Nothing out of the ordinary for a pro player, I'd say. Manuli's doing pretty damn good. Flea, top lane, does manage to secure First Blood though. Dark Mago does go down on the Kunkka.
Yeah, and that's what we were kind of talking about. With the LC, you can just run up, you can right-click down the Kunkka. When Tidebringer's down, you don't really win that right-click trade, especially once you have that level and the Moment of Courage up. So, really good use of that harassment coming out here from Flea and I Annihilate. Matthew, for his part, I mean, you can try to set up with a stun going into the torrent, but it's a bit costly, and right now you're starting to get some hits on the Nyx. Your range advantage is starting to show here for Flea. He's starting to apply more pressure onto Matthew. Rubik's right click is not to be underestimated, and he has a Blightstone start, so you don't necessarily want to stand there and trade if you are the Nyx, and that does make this a tougher lane as a dual melee lane up against an LC and a ranged Rubik. It can be a bit tricky to hold it.
It definitely can. Mid lane, HFN is starting to struggle a little bit here up against Monkeys. Very low in HP. Does have the Ring of Health though. He doesn't have to worry about a Burrow Strike either, because Monkeys Forever doesn't bother leveling it up until now. It's like HFN was preemptively counterspelling just in case. And Monkeys, if he can catch HFN at the right moment, he's going to get the kill. Does pop 2 mangoes straight away. HFN now definitely going to have to be very careful about running into that sandstorm.
Yeah, I mean, he's just waiting for the wave to push up. He's going to have to last it under tower every single time. He's trying to go for a bit of a pull into the camp. But for the most part, this is ending up to be a pretty even farming lane. Slightly behind for HFN. Monkey's having a bit of a better time. We'll see if the supports can relieve that. This is not a mid matchup that relies too much on power runes, though. So there's a lot of leeway for the supports to just focus on the sidelines and win out. And you're seeing that aggression really come out up top again. Dark Mago and I Annihilate were dropping low, although they are rotating mid.
Yeah, nice stun out, but Sandstorm was there by Monkeys Forever. And Matthew just going to take the haste rune and run away. Neither mid lane has a bottle, so I guess it doesn't really matter if they manage to get the power rune. Unless it's something like a double damage, but it was just a haste. That'll be enough. Back to farming for both of them. In fact, every lane is basically just a farming lane right now. Neither side really trying to get too aggressive in the side lanes quite yet. Looks like the side of Simply 2-Based are having the better time though. Like, you look at the CS board right now, all 3 cores from Simply 2-Based are sitting at the top. They are closely followed by NoPing, but they are certainly having a slightly better time in the laning phase.
Yeah, it's not by too much, but when it comes down to this more passive start, I think you're not going to be too upset as Simply 2-Based. Sure, HFN is finding some good farm, but it is an AM. It takes a while to really cook up, and for the most part, you just want to get your levels up here on 2-Based.
Nice stun there from Matthew. He even got the courier snipe. Now he's going to get chased down by I Annihilate, and I think Matthew's just dead. Lift up, and I Annihilate will continue the chase. Impale up in a second, but it won't matter. And I Annihilate will give him the tip. Matthew will let him know that he is lacking talent, to say it nicely. They did get the kill.
Yeah, it's still a good one to find for the LC. It helps you escalate just a bit more into your level spikes. And, you know, you did still manage to find a bounty rune here as well as I Annihilate. So not going to be too upset. You're just going to build up. Dark Mago gets some space in the Kunkka. So he's at level 5 a bit quicker. That means level 3 Tidebringers up. Once you have the boat up, maybe you look for a rotation out. And this is something that's a bit slower for NoPing, because you have the mid AM. Manuli doesn't have a rotation potential on mid, although they keep throwing Matthew up there.
They do. Matthew drops very low very quickly, however. Monkeys Forever just can pump out so much damage, and they found a DD rune now on the SK as well. He's got a bottle up this time. And yeah, DD, not the greatest rune for the Sand King, but when you're just hitting creeps in the lane, it's going to feel nice. It's going to make it so HFN can't really stick around as well. All he can do is just continue farming underneath the tier 1 tower, but that's pretty much it. See what Monkeys can get done with this DD. See, he is running up top now. Flea, top lane, is dropping low. Dark Mago trying to get the kill. They'll kill him off with the Impale from Matthew. Monkeys now shows himself on Phoenix Assassin, but Burrow Strike is not going to land. Still, they will continue the chase, but Spike Carapace going to kick in. Kunkka, Torrent, not going to land. Matthew, another nice Impale. Going to land on 2 as the arrow flies in Manuli. He shows up, going on Monkeys Forever. Another Burrow Strike out. Sandstorm's there. Dark Mago is going to die in the end. So NoPing, even with all that help, they could not keep the Kunkka alive.
Yeah, and that's a very nice kill to find for Monkeys. They managed to clean out the Kunkka after he did throw boat early on to find a Rubik kill. So just not having that on hand to live through the gank is not ideal, but you still are getting some value there for Kunkka. You force the rotation out though from the side of NoPing. So TOOBASED are forcing 3 heroes top. You're buying space for your Morphling bot. That can kind of pay off, especially if NoPing don't really find anything from this movement.
Looks like they won't either. Looking back to the mid lane, Monkeys Forever already there, going up against HFN, dealing a lot of damage. HFN just purely rushing a Battle Fury at the moment. Burrow Strike though is going to land. HFN? I think he's really trying to play on the edge, but you've got to be careful. That is a max stun from the Sand King. Still, though, they do catch Flea at the top rune spot, but Monkeys Forever has an Arcane rune, comes in with a double Burrow Strike, gets one, and they might just get Matthew as well. He's going to try and run a nice Impale out, but the Burrow Strike is going to land, and Monkeys Forever gets a triple kill on the Sand King. Mid Sand King looking good so far.
Yeah, it's really domineering. That's why I was wondering why they dragged the AM mid. Like, the Kunkka mid might still be bullied out the same way the AM is, but the AM gets a freer time up top, although that's still a tough lane. You can just see Monkeys with a 2-level advantage, just constantly stunning in, and there's nothing HFN can do.
Quite literally nothing. Back to the mid lane. I guess this is kind of what you get when you purely rush Battle Fury. No boots, no treads, nothing. Does make it a little bit hard to survive if you do get stunned up. Speaking of top lane, I Annihilate looking for a duel attempt. Dark Mago, he is going to be able to get it. And that should just be a nice guaranteed duel victory for I Annihilate. And his first one of the game. So plus 10 damage for the LC.
Yeah, it's a great pickup for I Annihilate. Also sets up for a bit of aggression in the push up top. Not going to be the quickest push, but you do have the Abaddon at least with a curse. So there's a little bit of speed you can get out of this. You're not in position to trade here as well if you're NoPing. So you're just leaving Boris for free down bot. He's not going to be harassed out by a Tidehunter. With max attribute shift, you're just not going to die. And that early presence you expected from NoPing, it's just not coming out. They can't play with the X arrow combo because it's a side lane Kunkka. So Manuli is just stuck kind of watching a Morphling that he can't really harass out.
Arrow, not going to land. Boris going to try for the bounty. They do get it with Monkeys, and now Burrow Strike. He wanted both of them with the Burrow, but he only gets Oscar. They aren't even going to try going after the Tide, as now top lane. I Annihilate is surrounded. He's going to try and fight back, but the Impel will land. And now with the Torrent and the Arrow follow-up, pretty much set to die. He's going to try and run. He's actually pretty darn tanky on this LC, cutting his way through the tree line now, buying a lot of space. He'll phase the other way to the right side. That's a great juke out. Still, HFN knows about it. They're still trying to chase. He has the Quelling Blade up. Arrow's not going to land. He's still alive, still running. The couriers are there now, but HFN is going to blink in and take care of it. Monkeys Forever, though, he gives him the tip. You look at that mid lane, John. Look at how much damage they got off. Onto that T1 tower, Boris, he rotated immediately. It almost kills it off, and now Monkeys Forever in with the Blink Dagger and the Epicenter onto Oscar, and they get the Tidehunter. Oh, NoPing, John, they're not looking too flash hot today. Not quite yet anyway.
No, it's not quite panning out. Again, it's down to this lane shift. They wanted the Kunkka to have a smoother ride, so they sacked their AM lane by having to go against the Sand King mid. Perhaps they were expecting the switch out. I think they might have been mind-gamed out here by that LC. They could have expected LC mid for the AM to deal with, which is a lot better, but they end up with a Sand King anyway. So it's just a slower start for NoPing. They need to find this farm on HFN, but they also need some initial farm on their Kunkka, and even their Tide will probably want a Blink now. He already has a Hood of Defiance, so there's some options of trying to jump in. But if you're NoPing, it's either sit back and farm or smoke up as 4 and start hunting. Maybe you wait for some more mana to play with Vendetta, but...
Well, HFN, he's trying to man-fight the LC. It may work out for him. He does not win the duel. Boat's going to come in, Arrow to fly in as well, and they do get the kill in the end. HFN just playing it a bit risky, but it works out. Nice little bait there from the anti-mage. Still, everyone from NoPing now has to start rotating across the map again as they do pop a Moonlight Shadow. And it looks like they have found out the Rubik Flea. They'd rather prefer to get the Sand King, of course, as they do get the X up, Torrent as well, but a great blink away. Still, they come in again, but the stun is out onto Manuli, but he will leap away.
Dire's top tower is
And
under
it looks like nothing's going to really come out of this.
No, they got the Moonlight stolen on the Rubik, so I don't think they were ready with any sort of detection beyond a casual dust for the Sand King, and that opens up more push for the side of TOOBASED. They've taken over the top jungle. They're going on to the tier 2. Boris is just allowed to free farm like this. He has a lot of gold in the bank, and you still have Monkeys Forever up at up number 1 in net worth. He's rushing his travels. Once you have that on the Sand King with a blink, it's going to be really easy to just run around, get the damage off, get your team fight spells off. They have left INL late bot alone to defend, but they can't even really close the gap with the LC.
No, they cannot. Boris top tier 2 tower going to go down very fast at this rate. Dark Mago is going to show up. He's by himself, but they may believe he has his team behind him. He'll go for the X-Torrent onto Empyrean. He will pop the borrowed time, but that's going to be about it for now. Oscar will come in. Meanwhile, mid lane, Manuli does go down to Monkeys Forever. That'll be the epicenter committed, but it's going to be a nice, easy solo kill there for the Sand King. NoPing, they're going to continue to struggle in this game number 1. It kind of looks like they're putting everything into the HFN basket, and that's maybe why they went the AM pick in the first place. But he needs a lot more time to be online. You can already see Simply TOOBASED, they are trying to take so much map control while he is farming on this AM.
Yeah, I mean, it's only HFN that's really farming up well now on the side of NoPing. The rest of their cores are sort of lagging behind, although not by much, to be fair. The lead is 3k up for TOOBASED, but the difference between the cores aren't the largest disparity we've seen. So there's still some room here for NoPing to grow. They can just kind of ride through this rough spot from their laning phase. We still have to see like a Ravage come out. So we haven't seen NoPing's big team fight yet with Ravage Boat, with their X-Arrow combinations not really coming out yet. And that does mean they still have some tools to play with. But they are really giving a bit too much space out here. Like Boris is just allowed to still free farm up. Hasn't died yet. They've got the Blink now and Annihilate as well, but they could catch Monkeys.
It'd be a nice pickup of Monkeys. He picks up on the fact that they've taken the bounty rune away and somebody must be there. Still yet to die on the Sand King Monkeys Forever. It's been very effective so far, and he just continues to make sure this mid lane is always forced in. And that does make it very hard for NoPing, because you've always got to commit to having somebody there in that mid lane, and generally you don't really want that in this stage of the game. It looks like he's just going to stick around. Just keep forcing them to stay in the mid lane and not allow them to start roaming around and buying more space for HFN. What is HFN buying, by the way? He's got a Voidstone queued up.
I think he just has that in casual queue. He's still probably going to go for the Yasha. Oh.
Lee, he's got Anchor Smash, lift, back into Oscar. Arrow not going to connect, but Flea should be dead eventually. Another Anchor Smash out from our Rubik, but eventually HFN does get the Mana Void out. We'll get the kill. Of course, up at top lane, the push has begun again. The tier 2 tower is going to drop. Empyrean going to try and run away. Meanwhile, towards the south, they do have a duel going. They're not going to win it in time, but they still get the kill. Matthew to die to Monkeys Forever. On the other side, though, Empyrean does also die to Oscar. They might reinitiate here, Simply TOOBASED. They are still very strong. Epicenter going to be committed right into the Mirana. Manuli being caught out. He is going to die. Onto Dark Mago they go. He's got the X boat back onto the Sand King, but it's too early. Way too early. It looks like that's going to be enough for Simply TOOBASED. They are going to back right off.
Yeah, they found out top tier 2. NoPing did find their first tower of the game, bought tier 1, but trading a tier 2 for a tier 1 is of course not ideal. We'll still have to see what NoPing wants to do. They haven't forced out any bigger fights. They still haven't played with their X arrow combos. Still no Ravage coming out from Oscar, so very conservative Tide Hunter play here. It is going all in the AM, as you mentioned, but I think it's kind of always your game plan when you do go for AM. So I would like to see NoPing get some more space out, pop their spells. Every time you have Ravage just sitting like this on Oscar, like 17 minutes without using it, that can be a bit detrimental. Even just one kill with Ravage is kind of worthwhile here.
Died a rather radiant triangle. Boris is being watched by Matthew. Matthew maybe just hoping Boris starts agimorphing again and gets a lucky snipe, but Boris is looking too healthy for that. They're still going to go anyway. Arrow is there to follow up. Can they kill him off in time? Maybe with a Starfall they can, and they will. Matthew going to get the tip. Very happy about that one, of course. Meanwhile, mid lane, Ravage is committed, but a Burrow Strike out from Monkeys Forever. But the counter spell going to make it less effective as the boat flies in, and a double impale is there by Matthew. They continue. They want the full team wipe. Onto Flea they go. Flea looks like he's going to be able to get away for now. Dark Mago, he'll catch out Empyrean with the X and the Torrent, and of course HFN is going to be able to blink right in and get the kill. And he's been farming this whole game, HFN. He's top of the net worth board, but now the epicenter, Monkeys Forever. He gets the anti-mage. Arrow not going to land. Torrent does, but another Burrow Strike into Boris with the Morphling. They clean him up. Manuli trying to run. Burrow Strike is not going to land. I Annihilate, however, does have a duel, and there's no more leap charges left. And this should be a nice, easy duel for I Annihilate as Monkeys Forever gets a triple kill on the Sand King. And that's one thing we didn't really mention in the last team fight, John. The Sand King never died. Monkeys Forever actually managed to get away somehow.
Yeah, he still had that bottled up regen rune. Just blinked up to the high ground, managed to get out enough time to get a burst strike off. And that's the Abaddon shield at play. He got shielded up before he could be picked off, and there's enough time for him to clean up. So NoPing just don't have enough burst to deal with a tankier front line. And now they're going to lose a Roshan for it. That's going to be the first Aegis of the game, going the way of TOOBASED. NoPing, I mean, that was still a pretty darn good team fight. They just lost everyone in the follow-up, not respecting the fact that Monkeys could just head back in. Now they're going to have to be a bit more cautious. They lost HFN in the middle of that. He is going for this sort of fighting AM build. He's got the Sanjin Yasha up, maybe going for a disassembly play into a Halberd and Mantstyle down the line, but for now he is queuing up the Butterfly. So he's going to try to go for the right-click build, try to still go for that split push. You are seeing NoPing sort of build up. They've got the Armlet and Dark Mago, Sanj up as well, perhaps going into his own Heaven's Halberd here once he has enough space. And they do have potent team fight on the side of NoPing. They just need to line up those spells, and again, you can't underestimate a Sand King. Like, the moment you don't kill him off, you should know that he can just kind of walk back in with the epicenter once it's back up. And speaking of, Monkeys does have another regen rune on hand, so gotta watch that rune usage here if you are on the side of NoPing.
Boris, double Burrow Strikes now are up with that Ags. I assume that's what he wants anyway. It does seem quite potent.
Oh, it really is. Like, you've got that extended range on your own Burrow Strike as a Morphling, which is always so value, right? You get the Morphling Ags, you get the Ags of the hero you turn into. Sand King Ags is really beautiful, and they do smoke up. This is a major spike for the side of TOOBASED.
Oh, and Matthew, he's barely going to miss out on breaking it. In fact, never mind. They're going to turn right back around for that next Assassin. I Annihilate, not going to duel him up yet, but eventually he'll get him. Oh, no, he doesn't. He just hits him. He doesn't want the dual damage. Fair enough.
Yeah, I guess they want a bigger target to lock in. Maybe they're trying to look for the AM on the duel now, just to keep him down. They do have the blink on the LC to kind of get that initiation off, so I think that might be the game plan here.
You might be right, John. Burrow Strike is there. They've got to get that duel off in time. Ravage, however, from Oscar is going to make sure they cannot. Duel out. Arrow connects onto the LC. That is a tanky Tide. He's not going to die in time, but they do eventually get him. Double Burrow Strike is pretty damn potent. And simply TOOBASED, they are looking very strong now with that Ags up on Boris, I've got to say, John. I mean, you've still got an AM on your side, but when there's double Burrow Strikes flying through the team fight, it's going to make it very hard. And as I look away, they also find Manuli.
Yeah, it's a hard one for NoPing. They are getting some good space out for HFN though. He does switch his build into a Scotty, so wanting to take away some of that durability, get a slow off in the middle of the fight, which is always nice. Have to commend the Ravage use there. I mean, it seems wasteful, but it buys your AM space to go out. And overall, that's pretty much worthwhile. They're not looking for big team fights right now on the side of NoPing. This does open up the push for TOOBASED. Not having to worry about Ravage means they can go for a tier 2. HFN is going for a top tier 1, but again, not the most worthwhile trade going for a tier 2 versus a tier 1.
Tier 2 tower still going to go down very easily. Top tier 1 still being forced in here by HFN. Simply TOOBASED definitely don't mind this at all. Dark Mago, X butt lifted up. Flea got the X as well. Now they rush in. Arrow gonna hit the LC on his way in. Boris with the Burrow Strike right into the team fight. They kill off one. It's gonna be Annihilate down. And that was a very nice arrow there from Manuli. Just really stopping the duel that could have came out on the Kunkka. They're still waiting for a way to initiate in. They don't seem to mind that Annihilate is dead. Now it looks like that's going to be enough. Monkey's still waiting around. He's got the epicenter. Gonna find Oscar. That'll be it. He'll back off, but a Moonlight Shadow has been popped now. X there from Flea. Another X pack. Lift up, Burrow in, and they have Boris coming in, but he doesn't get a second Burrow off yet. No duel either. Boris will be able to get it. They do find the Kunkka. Ravage is out. A pretty big Ravage, in fact. Boat flying in as well. Annihilate is done again. Monkey's forever going down, and there goes Empyrean. Boris, right in the middle of all this, eventually going to die. And HFN with the Eye of Skadi can actually fight this Morphling now, as they'll find him a second time, it seems. He'll try to waveform away, but it's going to be no good. And NoPing now looking like they might just be ready to take over this game.
Yeah, they've hit that spike with the AM where he can join these fights. The investment has paid off. The Ravage from Oscar holding back that burst was really big as well. And TOOBASED have a problem with damage. Like, they may have this double stun on their Morphling combo with the Sand King, but they can't melt the heroes on hand from NoPing. Look at the amount of HP Dark Mago has, and once he flicks that armlet on, he's going to have even more HP. They just don't have enough to rip through the Kunkka and the Tide. And the supports have been very disciplined. NoPing has managed to space out the Manuli and Matthew out in these bigger team fights to prevent them from being taken out first, so they always have some utility on hand.
Annihilate. Monkeys forever. Dying for the first time last team fight. Might just get it straight into another death. They miss the Impale and the Arrow. They miss everything, but it may not matter. Monkey's just a sitting duck. He'll Burrow Strike and try to go the other way, but HFN right on his tail wants the kill and will be able to get the kill. They get a duel off, but a great boat in from Dark Mago, or rather the Rubik, I believe. Flea, he actually stole it, but it just won't matter. Annihilate still going down on the LC, is going to die, and NoPing now going for even more. Boris, he's going to try and fight, but they've lost another. HFN with a triple kill now onto Boris. Might be an ultra kill as he gets X back, and he's going to die. An ultra kill out for HFN. He wants the Rampage.
Oh.
He's going to get the Rampage in the fountain. And suddenly, NoPing, they're looking like the stronger team, John.
Yep, this investment in HFN definitely paying off, and the side of NoPing are just too tanky. Like, with the casual Hood of Defiance, Oscar's very hard to kill. Even the Solar Crest doing a lot of work in saving him out. So that initial burst for damage on any of your heroes. You see Boris's build Ags is not going to burst anyone down. They lose a Rax on top of that, and this is where HFN gets really scary. He's also really tanky up front, getting any value from his attribute shift, and need to find a way to get some damage in. They're going to be short on farm now with one wave just constantly shoving in and not being worth as much. NoPing now with the 8k lead on hand can start to work this map, and TOOBASED have to find a way to itemize for damage now. But it looks like they're still going for utility. Boar is still waiting on that BKB to be finished up first, which will help. But there's a butterfly already on HFN, so he is going to be hitting even harder up front. And you still don't have any damage to kill off these 3 tanky cores from NoPing.
Yeah, my apologies, by the way, to the viewers. I believe my internet was playing up for a few seconds just before, so hopefully I'll get to check what was going on there right after this game. Boris, gonna get X'd up on this Morphling. Right back into the Torrent. He's gonna be alright for now, but they've already killed off Flea. HFN with a double damage rune looking very scary on this anti-mages. They're going for more now. They found the Morphling again with that Yules into the Ravage. Playing no games here, HFN. Going for Monkeys Forever now with a triple kill out. And he wants more. He wants another Rampage. He's going after Annihilate. They'll kill off Empyrean. Into the fountain HFN goes. Just bathing in it as he is probably going to die. Never mind, he won't. He'll blink out. But a GG call has been made. And simply TOOBASED will not be able to get the victory over NoPing. And looks like putting their trust in HFN's AM does work out.
Yeah, that was a surprising bounce back from HFN. He had a really slow time in mid. Monkeys Forever was just taking over. They found a lot of laning kills on the mid Sand King. But then TOOBASED got a bit complacent. They were running around the map. They took a few towers, but then they take some pretty wonky team fights, not respecting the Ravage, not respecting the durability that they had on hand with NoPing, with their heroes, and with a boat on top. So have to reconsider those mid-game choices there. NoPing getting the rightful punishment out and getting HFN up to the point. It's the same story every single time. Even if HFN has a slow farming start, he will always find that farm, and when he bounces back in, he bounces back in hard, so you have to watch for that if you're TOOBASED.
That he does, John. Of course, with that, we are going to move on to our second game of this BO2 series, and that should be coming up in roughly 10 minutes. Like I said, John, I'm going to go have a quick look, see what's going on with the internet, and hopefully it was just a temporary issue. But we'll be back as soon as that first game draft does